Initially, you pick a spouse depending on their looks and have fun until you realize that your offspring will be raised on principles and not on how they watch a movie. Achievements cannot act as the remedy to squandering one's family. If people could erase the suffering they inflicted upon you, you would be bereft of the power which you acquired. The median of 5 is true math. If you want to understand a person, find out who their 5 closest acquaintances are. Worries of your friends become your own worries. Fewer people in your friends' list equates to lesser problems. The moment you start valuing yourself, you will be surprised that one time you deemed as acceptable. When you laugh, people laugh with you, and when you cry alone. Just because you feel nostalgic about someone does not mean you must have them in your life again. Longing is just a phase in the process of healing. The enchantment that you seek is around the task that you are trying to avoid. Being overly trusting makes one a victim of betrayal. Self-exploration results in energy drained, depressive stress, and bald spots. Depressing thoughts lead to mental unwellness. It is strongly essential to say no. Revenge destroys life itself. Watching leads to an improvement of knowledge and understanding. Being able to forgive is needed as the next step, the healing process. The reason to consider not caring is the assurance that money is not a problem. It is fine. The world is not going to collapse because there is no steady salary. Something out of the world will happen. Every human being wears 3 uniforms. The one we wear when we are in public, the one that the family, spouse, or close friends are shown, and the final one, which is exclusively for ourselves. Remember, you cannot be everything to everyone, so you do not need to take everything to heart. Not everything is for you to solve. Concentrate on things that matter to you. It will make you a lot happier. Finally, hearing the word no is as important for raising and developing oneself as is the affirmative answer that everyone seeks. There is no solution, so you will spend a lot of hours searching for one. People choose to remain stagnant for a reason. The sentiments that they possess are the fetters that keep them rooted in one place. Let others think what they want. You cannot continue caring for everyone, especially for their love. To be able to win, it is all right to have oppositions. You may think that you have been buried because you are in the dark, but what you do not realize is that you have only been planted. The individual who has the least emotional investment in the relationship appears to be the dominant one. Do not slow your progress for the sake of a friend, for they may not return the favor when necessary. Society does not respect one's expectations. Society respects one's achievements. You give up all your health in hopes of wealth, but then exchange all your wealth to have just one day of great health. Do not ever measure your self-worth in comparison with others. Yes, there might be people who seem to have better things in life, but in reality, they have issues that you will never know of. Do not disclose your thoughts or ideas to anyone. Retain all of your knowledge to yourself, as a friend of today could turn into an enemy tomorrow. Welcome feedback. No matter how satisfactory it is or how unsatisfactory it is, you will always be assessed. Therefore, do not go out of your way to please people. Instead, please yourself. There is no bigger tormentor than a man who worries, since he takes away everything but gives nothing in return. Remorsing over losses, whining and shedding tears is cutting off your way to accomplishments. You are indeed right in most of the things you think should be done by you. Do not postpone, but start doing it. If it irritates you, change it. If, however, it is not in your hands any longer, learn to accept it. Just accept it. Change yourself. That is the only thing which is within your control. When you rise in the morning, Remember that night you swore to yourself. The first 20 years of your life you spent stressing over how other people perceive you. The next 20 years you swear that their opinion of you does not matter to you. For the next 2 decades you come to understand that they do not care about you. If you desire to have something that you have not had in your life before, then you have to go out there and do something that you had not done before. People will say almost anything when they are happy. This one, be prudent and cautious. The world will not be better to you because you are a good person. Looking for members of the opposite sex, who you would have flings and only use for sexual purposes, makes little sense. What people say when they are angers are not what they mean. They say it out of anger, but they take their times and regret this. Anger can then be controlled by understanding the thrower of the anger. It is okay. They are just people. For every time people disappoint you, it will get easier to realize that life goes on and on, no matter what. You cannot expect to soil be negative all over and then question on why your life is ugly. Not everyone is destined to fulfill your future. Some people are just on the run to help you with your challenges. Financially located in a hole, turn off the money-wasting switch, or you may not get the chance back to earn it later. But that is life, isn't it? Life can reward you for good deeds or hold grudges against evil, but we all know the reality, and it's not considerate, and it's the unpredictability of it all that makes things interesting. Everyone has the mind of making bad decisions and expecting good results. Life will never cease to push us into confusion, and that is the goal. Egos, we all rub off a bit of it off our shoulders here and there. It's nothing to be embarrassed of. Sometimes we need it to fuel us up in accomplishing what we want. At the end of the day, even if you think you are the best at something, guess what? Plenty of people share your perspective and are better than you in almost anything. There is absolutely nothing wrong in that. Friends don't betray each other, enemies do. Reaching the finish line is always going to be the struggle, not the starting line, because that is the easy part. Fuel percentage at the ignition is lethal, and patience pays off everything for the greater good. There is beauty in losing, and in trade every hour spent in regret is an hour done in compromising. Tomorrow's work should never be pushed today, and if that's the case, that's your rule. It's unrealistic to expect good days all the time. However, it's possible to tackle a bad day with a positive mindset. Remember not to benchmark yourself against others, since no one else can perform your part better than you. There's no shame in any job. The only shame should be when your ego becomes larger than yourself. There is no need to waste your time criticizing the job itself, because your silence will serve you better and allow you to showcase your talent in the job assigned to you. Life is all about sacrifice, and so is a career. You can't have everything at once. Eventually, most of us end up settling in some part of our life. It can be tough to accept what you are, especially when you have spent the greater half of your life running away from it, but accepting your truth is equally cathartic. Your secret is much more exposed than you assume. Both the people you shared it with are telling it to other people. The greatest insight that a true development can have is that you are not the voice in you, but the one who listens, in contact with the voice. People only want the good news, not the bad news, so it will be difficult to find someone to speak to about your challenges. The emotional barriers you set up to stop things from penetrating are at the same time making it impossible for you to step outside. These are the moments that are taken for granted, moments in which a person knows they are meeting someone for the last time, and how important that moment is, because I assure you, in the end, every single moment will turn into a beautiful fight. Show me someone who can get over everything easily, and I will show you someone whose expectations aren't that high. The higher the expectations go, the greater the possibilities to be hurt. There is nothing wrong in regretting a word you said, because silence is never something to regret. Do not live trapped in your own anger. Learn to let go, even when it is the case that you are right. Life is spinning around you. Winning isn't about your knees touching the ground. Winning is when you have the willpower to stand up again and fight back. Instead, focus on the fact that moving on is truly terrible, but once you've moved past that, you will realize you have made the best decision. If you say something, you better get it done. Especially when you cannot, do not give people the upper hand over you. Understand your freedoms and learn how to say no. You can't say not too many times without believing it. Do so. It is surprising, but it is true that people are not as easily subjected to being offended. You will never know what it means to mean something to a woman, so do not encourage her if you do not want to be put into the feat of giving her love. When doing so, and tellfortheheart.bl. When engaging in a conversation with people, do not shy away from maintaining eye contact, as well as positioning your neck and head, as this will increase your self-worth in a social setting. Seek that which you treasure most deeply, a safe haven that would inspire you and motivate you to keep moving forward. Whenever faced with challenging circumstances and when the clouds of depression linger, you need a way out. Everything is simple, a lot more than you might believe. Always keep in mind, it is your brain which sometimes tips you. Now and again, discontinue talking. The most precious thing you own is your time, and guess what? You cannot purchase or reclaim the time which you waste. You should not resent your past in order to appreciate the present and the future you. Be unrelentlessly determined in your efforts, but gentle in your results. People in a marriage who have low self-esteem will never be happy. When we say this, there is no scope for misunderstanding. Being alone and being lonely are not the same thing. A single situation can create a million chaotic thoughts. Overthinking hinders your reality and makes you concerned with questions that do not make sense, and subsequently makes the present unbearably overwhelming. Humans are mostly useless. Life lessons last until they no longer serve a loop. Avoid sharing too much of your life. Every trouble is usually solved by gut feeling, which is fairly accurate sometimes. Pretending to be in good terms with those whom you dislike does not earn you any bonus. What is the purpose of complaining? Why do people think life is fair? Rather, with a theme focused on resilience, I can say that life is not a bed of roses. Bear with it. You do not have to be a pro to kick things off. To be a pro, all you need to do is take that first step. The Ethiopian proverb goes, "When poverty enters in at one door, love and peace fly out at the window." People only get disappointed in the end. Always give what you want people to tell you. It is of your concern, not theirs. You blame someone else for telling you what to do when you get married to yourself. Certainly do not assume you will have all the time in the world with family and friends, because they may not always be there. Always make sure your actions define you and vice versa. If only I could describe everything life throws at you. Cold water, salt, lemon and pepper. And the catch is if those ingredients go together or not. Get your act together and stop whining about how hard life is for you. Instead, leave a mark on the world. And from that moment on, life will be what you want and expect it to be. To try is to fail. One famous person said, "But it is about time you ask where the regret gets you, which is nowhere." Hopes should not exist, for they will only create expectations which in turn will weaken you. There are those who do not accept that they are wrong. Avoid wasting your time with such people. Being passionate is great, but it does not solve all your issues. While passion is good in life's endeavors, it is not always a bed of roses. You are not special. Someone else just as good, fun, and competent as you are will always be available. At times, it's right to allow idiocy to be. Do not read a quote and say this is wisdom, but read it and say, how does this apply to my life?